Oi, oi, or maybe it should be g'day, mate, because we are here to talk about the race that stops a nation. It is the Melbourne Cup, taking place on Tuesday, the 5th of November. Local time, I think, is 3 p.m. UK time, I think, would be 4 a.m. in the morning. So you'll either have to get up early or you'll have to wait until you wake up to find out who wins this notorious race. There is an abundance of prize money available. The race is worth 8 million Australian dollars. That's about £4 million UK sterling. And it's a race that's, I think, got more interesting for British runners especially, or more interesting to British punters, with the likes of Vauban going over there last year and now, of course, going back to potentially have another tilt at the race. So I have done my best to look at some trends from this century, piece them together slightly differently to how I've done for some of the UK races, but there will be a link in the description for you to go click and you can check out the cheat sheet that might help you whittle down the field for, I'll say it again, the race that stops a nation. Now, we're getting excited about it. We've seen lots of footage of horses travelling over there. We've seen Willie Mullins go over. We've seen Aidan O'Brien go over. There are some real hot prospects that are going in here. Now, this video has been kindly sponsored by Ball Sport. So just before we carry on, I'll quickly just peel through the prices for the race. This is correct at the time of recording, Sunday, the 27th of October. Now, of course, we've got to wait for final field and we've also got to wait for the barrier draw to be done. So that is the stalls draw or the gates, whichever way you want to spin it. That happens on Saturday, the 2nd of November. So Breeders' Cup weekend. It'll be 5:30 Australian time, so it's going to be early in the morning again over here. But of course, we'll know by then, we'll know by the Sunday, what the draw is for it, which could be relevant. When you look at the cheat sheet, I've gone through that. There are some gates that seem, or barriers, that seem to be more prevalent in producing winners than others. But as I say, we'll go back to what the betting is at the moment. So there's been a few recent horses that have won. We'll talk about those ones too. But Ts&Cs, of course, had the incident pre-workout where unseated the jockey. They weren't 100% sure if she was going to run or if Ts&Cs was going to run. And then absolutely dotted up after a horse that they've said they're going to take their time to think about whether the horse is going to go and run in the Melbourne Cup. We've had one smooth operator as well, a Northern Raider, Northern as far as we are, although I guess globe-wise it probably is a Northern Raider too, but still, won the Geelong Cup recently. I think he probably will be coming to the race, and one smooth operator using the Geelong Cup as a launch pad. We've had 3 do that recently, at least this century. We've had Media, Puzzle, American in 2010 and Dunedin in 2011. Going back to Ts&Cs quickly before I do run through those odds, Ts&Cs would be attempting to be a Cox Plate runner and winner of this race. I've gone back to the 80s and I can't see a horse that's done the double. The only horse I can see that's like running both, or won the Cox Plate and then running the Melbourne Cup that came close, was So You Think in 2010, who was beaten by the Geelong Cup winner that year. But we don't know definitely if she's going to run or not. So look, I'll quote her price in it because that's where we've got it with the bookies. But we'll see how the race shapes up as we get a bit closer to it. Then yet to make the decision, but she would be a fascinating contender if she did go in here. She is top weight as well, I believe. Jan Bruegel heads the market with Ball Sports at 5-1. He's gutsy, resilient. He just sticks his neck out, carries on with it, doesn't he? St. Ledger winner. This would be his first spin in this race. And we'll talk about a couple that are coming back and whether that's a good or a bad thing, I guess. Ts&Cs next best in with Ball Sports, 6-1. Same price as Buckaroo. We've then got Vauban, who, of course, ran in the race last year. Well beaten, but looked, I guess, probably before the race like he was just an absolute shoo-in. But it does go to show that, you know, anything can happen in racing. He's a 7-1 poke at this point with Ball Sports. One smooth operator who we've just talked about, 8-1 for the race. And then it's Willie Mullins, second string last year, second string this year according to the betting. Absurd, 12-1, who ran in the race again last year, but obviously did much better than Vauban did. 16-1 bar, those Land Legend at that price, and then it is 25-1 bar. So look, there's still a little bit to find out, especially with that barrier draw being done. As I say, when you look in the cheat sheet below, it will give you some information into what those parts are. But I guess the most important thing to probably talk about in this instance, or the question that may want to be asked for us Brits that are looking at this, or any of you international followers that are now liking and subscribing to the GG channel, I guess you want to know what the record is for horses that go back into a Melbourne Cup, right? Because I was curious about this. So you can spin facts and trends and stuff, I guess kind of whatever way you want to look at it. But I guess first and foremost, the prices that I've quoted there for your Vaubans and your Absurds that are coming back, 4 places up for grubs on the anti-post market. Who knows if they'll do some extended places on the day. But it is a race where, yes, we want to try and find the winner, but they're going to be reasonable priced horses that take this race. And that does mean that each way value is potentially an option too. Like, obviously we want to try and find the winner, but we'll see how we go. If we do talk about previous runners in the race, we'll move on to the price stuff after, so we'll see what the relevance is in there. But horses that have run in the race before, there are quite a lot that have tried it really. From this century, so there's 24 races that we've covered within there, 19 of the races of the century have seen a horse finish in the top 4. So that's the highest placed returning horse. So again, talk about those place terms. 4 places up for grabs, anti-post anyway. And that's at least top 4. 7 horses have come back to win the Melbourne Cup after running it in the previous year. And a whole host of them have come second and third. So finishing within the top 4, 19 of the last 24 renewals. So you'd expect, or it's more than likely, I guess, that something from last year that ran in the race is going to feature in the finish, in the top 4. It's one of those, yes. So it's about 30% if we've got 7, and it's 3 of the last 10 as well. So 30%. So they're in line with each other. So look, all being told, there's a definite chance that Vauban or Absurd can do better than they did last year. They could go and win this. But as I say, big race, draw, everything could have a relevance in there. But you could get away with betting some of those horses each way too, right? They've put some information in there about the draw. There's loads of different barriers that have got real good records since history began. In recent years, there seems to be, not necessarily a pattern, but there seems to be a sort of area that looks quite good. I explain it more in the cheat sheets. You can go look at it in there. Looking at price, favourites have won just 3 renewals of this century, so in 24, and none of the last 10. Again, I'll mention Vauban because he was one last year that was, again, I'll say it again, he was cited on this side of the sea, like defeat was out of the question, but it is horse racing. Being a big field handicap as well, there haven't been too many short price favourites, but even with the 3 winners, you would still return a negative return on investment. So back in the favourite blind is not the way to play this one. Since 2006, we've had just 1 winning favourite at 6-1, and then there's been a couple of seconds, thirds and fourths. Around 2/3 of the winners of this race have returned 14-1 or shorter. So I feel like that's probably a better line in. Now, you might argue that there'll be more horses that were priced at those sort of prices, but I don't think that is true. Haven't done as deep a dive in the price stuff as you could do, but I think you end up getting yourself a little too carried away with one thing being an overriding factor. Look, in the cheat sheet, it explains that there are a number of things that come into consideration. Of course, form, class, ability, and all those things need to be considered too. Stats and trends are there just to help you, I guess, accompany your form study and the way that you want to look at things. But as I say, myself, looking at Australian racing is not something that I do that often. Of course, the Melbourne Cup is a big race that's well known around the world. The race that stops the nation, I've said it again, but it's one that I don't have that much information into. So look, I've shared the information that I have got in here, age and things like that as well, that I think could be relevant. It's going to be a race that I definitely want to watch. I'm sure plenty of you guys will too, but this might just add a little something to it, much as the Breeders' Cup videos that I've just done, that, you know, if you did fancy having an interest in the Melbourne Cup, or you did want to get up early, or you want to watch the result after, then this might help you feel a little less alienated if like me, you don't have too much knowledge of that sphere. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your guys' support. If you are new to the channel, please make sure you are subscribing. If you're old, then just drop us a like as you always do, and we will see you again very soon.